101. Today I'm discussing the Immortal rules, the first book in Julie Kagawa's Blood of Eden trilogy. Yes, this is a vampire book, and I know the vampire stage is kind of over now, but it's very different from Twilight and Vampire Academy. It's the same kind of world and thing. And I know now, like with vampire books, the same content seems to be just recycled and just used over and over again. But this book is quite different. And if you're wondering why I have that little thing on it, it's like my Switch book. This came along with a magazine I was reading. So yeah, if you're wondering why it has that little tag, it's quite annoying. That's the reason why. So the Immortal Rules is a dystopian set in the future, and it seems to be now that vampires have taken over the world. These vampires keep humans as blood cattle in these little vampire cities all over the world. The story is centered around a girl called Allison, and she lives in one of these vampire cities called New Covington. And she's unregistered in the city, which means that she isn't owned by the vampires. Vampires can't use her for blood. They cannot feed off her like registered people, which vampires feed off. The catch though with being unregistered is you don't get given food. So unregistered people have to hunt and scavenge for food. People don't have jobs in this city. Reading is illegal because vampires don't want people knowing about the world before the vampires. So Ellie sees if she can scavenge up any food in the Fringe. Fringe is like the deserted civilization outside the city wall. And one night she's caught and turned into a vampire. The story then follows her and her vampire journey and how she must learn the rules of being immortal to survive as a vampire. And along the way you meet heaps of characters and they're all kind of trying to find a cure for this disease. If you're into vampire books or fantasy, dystopians or paranormal books, I would suggest to give this book a go. It might actually surprise you because it definitely surprised me. To be truthful, I wasn't expecting this book to be really good, but it was actually so good. So that's the end for the non-spoiler section. Continue watching to be spoiled. If you don't want to be spoiled, see ya. Julie Kagawa, you are amazing! Really made me see into the vampire mind. Let me just say, I found it really amazing in the acknowledgements how she's like, oh, funny story, back at the beginning of my writing career, I remember telling myself that I wouldn't write a vampire book. Well, I'm so glad you did write a vampire book because this book is brilliant. Interesting in this book to learn how these vampires came to rule the world because it's gone on for like 6 generations, which is like 60 years. Apparently, type-3 vampires were all around us. And then this red lung virus hit and humans started dying. Therefore, us as the vampires' food source was dying out. And of course that will make like the vampires go mad. It's like me if I don't have chocolate. The master vampire thought, stuff this. I'm going to create a city and I'm going to keep humans in there like blood cattle because I can do that. Rapids were vampires originally, but in the early stages of the plague. And in the early stages of the plague, the vampires were immune. And the master vampire went to the scientist saying the vampire's blood was the key to finishing this disease. So then the master tracked down some vampires to use as live samples, but that only created rapids. And rapids escaped carrying the red blood lung disease. The red blood lung? The red lung? Red lung disease! What the red blood lung? What am I saying? And humans started changing. Oh my god, what a world to be living in. Oh. Allison was such an awesome lead character. She was just brave and tried to cling on to her humanity even when she was a vampire. The journey that she went on after she became a vampire was just like, wow. So let's talk this book. It begins in New Covington. And Stick is whining because he was hungry. So Ellie's like, I'll go get you some food. Freaking Stick, he's so annoying. I'm just like, get the food yourself. So she goes out and she finds all this food in this shed, all these cans and everything. So you can imagine how she feels. She's so excited. Oh, I got all these cans. And all those cans topple on her. And I actually thought that was the point that she was going to turn into a vampire, but no, I was mistaken. It was the second time that she went out. So the second time that she went back to this basement, you know, she took Lucas, Rat, and Stick. And they're there, the boys just eat and eat and eat, and that's all they do. I understand because, like, if you were starving for your whole life and everything, you would do that. But, you know, you gotta think twice. You gotta think at the same time, geez, I'm gonna be, like, eaten by rapids. So then the rapids attack and Lucas dies, which is sad, but I don't really care about Rat because I didn't really like him anyway. Not to be rude or anything, but I didn't really care about Rat. Can Ellie escape? And Stick gets hurt. So that just, you know, slows everything down. When Stick gets hurt, you know, he wouldn't move. Ellie's just like, come on, Stick, and Stick's just there. Rapids come, and then Ellie has to, like, cut herself to distract the rapids. I'm just thinking, oh my god, Stick. The rapids get Ellie, but then Kanin saves her. Kanin's just did like how he taught her and everything. I guess the stubbornness just comes from being like a master vampire. I liked how Kagawa described being a vampire. It just sounded so cool and epic. And she now learns that her body can do all these cool things. It reminded me a bit of Vampire Academy. Not the story, but like the Rose and Dimitri relationship. Because, you know, Dimitri was like the mentor and Rose was like the cheeky student. So it kind of reminded me a bit of that. So Kanin reveals that he's the master vampire that went to the scientists and exposed them to the vampire world. So that makes Ellie a type 2 vampire because she was bitten by a master. And apparently if you're bitten by a type 2, you become a type 3, which is a mongrel. And if you're a mongrel, you're really unfortunate because if you bite anyone, they turn into a rapid. People are really obsessed in this book about, you know, what lies in the inner city, you know, because people are taken there and they never come back. But then when Kanin shows Ellie the inner city, it's just the same. It's run down. It's sad when she goes back to see Stick, and then when he finds out that she's a vampire, he raises his whole alarm. And then Kanin and her have to leave New Covington because Stick kind of gave up where they were. And she's separated from Kanin. The next couple of days, she treks through the forest, finds a little boy crying, which is Caleb. She meets Zeke, and I love Zeke. Very nice, and he's so determined. And all around, he's just the sweetest guy. And you also meet Ruth. Man, that girl. The amount of times she said in this book, there's something about her. I don't trust her. Like, annoying me. Because she said that about like 50 times in this book. Then we meet Jeb, and I'm just thinking, okay, now this sounds like the host. You have a vampire with this whole gang of humans. This Jeb is very stubborn, but also from being stubborn, he is determined to try and find Eden. And that Jackal is the vampire that hates Jeb. And when we meet Jackal later in this book, he's a freaking like kills innocents in that freaking floating pit. Before I get to the floating pit, I love Ellie's action scene, how she saves, you know, Beth, and she just like goes hunting and the guys think, oh yeah, can she manage it? She just knocks their socks off because she totally does. So when they're hunting one day, they save this guy up in a tree, he's being attacked by rapids, and from there we meet Patricia and the whole group of humans which have their house and farm inside like a big wall so they can keep the rapids out. And there's a time where Ellie and Zeke nearly kiss. It doesn't matter, and he's like, well, it does to me. And then, of course, Ruth bloody interrupts them. And the second time they nearly kiss, she pushes him back because, you know, she just doesn't want to hurt him. I think Ellie shouldn't have pointed the sword at him because I thought that was kind of rude. I mean, okay, you're a vampire, you know, you don't want him to kiss you because all horrible things can happen. Just don't point a sword at him. Joey then turns into a rapid, and Ruth hears Ellie say sorry to him, and then she finds out that, you know, Ellie's a vampire. I thought Ellie did quite a good job as keeping her status as a vampire secret. The way she was just tempted at wanting to buy, you know, each and every one of them, but she kind of held it back. I thought that was so brave of her. Zeke finds out and she's just cast out. She can't help but follow them, and she follows them. And then they end up in like this abandoned little city. And here, frickin' Jeb whips Zeke, which was horrible. But then Ellie gets so awesome when she helps him out in the rapid attack. Oh, Zeke gets hurt. They then make their way to old Chicago, Jackal City. And there they plan to rescue everyone in their group. They find everyone in the floating pit. And what I found so inspiring was Zeke, after, you know, his leg being busted and everything, he's still going at it. He's, you know, he's still moving. So like I said before, at the floating pit, it's where Jackal, like, slaughters people and everything. And they release a rapid to kill Darren. Everyone out, which is just so kick-ass. And Ellie rescues stubborn Jeb. And Jeb just, like, stabs her in the gut because he doesn't trust a vampire, you know, to rescue him and everything. And I'm just like, dude, you're surrounded by vampires. I think the one you can trust the most is definitely Ellie. You know, it's not like she's gonna do everything bad. Well, she might do something bad. You know, if she smells blood and everything, she might attack you. But in general, she's not gonna try and like. We find out that Kanin actually sired Jackal, which makes Jackal, in a sense, Ellie's brother. This book, after having kind of elements from Vampire Academy and the host, now kind of has something like Mortal Instruments. Sebastian, even though his sister is Clary, wants them to be together and to rule. Now Jackal wants Ellie to kind of rule beside him, but Ellie's like, nah. And there's a whole fight and Jeb pushes Jackal out the window. Sad when Jeb dies because Even though I didn't really like him as a character, to push yourself out of a window with a vampire, you know which one's gonna survive and which one's not. Zeke is still going after everything that's happened to him. And he comes back because he couldn't leave without Allie. And then when he gets there, and then he pulls her into his lap, and then he lets her drink from him. Dude, as if you haven't lost enough blood already. And just when you think that's the end of it, it's still going. On the way to Eden after they found out on that map, they bump into more rapids. Rapids, you know, rampage the car on their way to Eden. Allie's like all cool and she gets out and, you know, she and with a sword she tries to kill as many as she can. She just says to Zeke, you know, go help the others, get them to safety and everything. Zeke joins in the battle. And then finally the humans from Eden come to help. When they do, she's like, I'm not leaving, there's someone else. Zeke's still there. And he's bleeding and everything, but he's still alive. Ending, they make it to Eden. Yay! The doctor wants to take her heart rate and she's like, no, you won't, because you won't find anything there. She's kicked out of Eden after all that. Sad, because just at the beginning of this story, you know, we saw her as a human and then we saw her whole journey through being a vampire and everything. And it's just like, if she had known about Eden earlier and set out on this earlier, she might have made it to Eden as a human. I really liked Zeke and Allie's relationship. They're both really strong, determined characters. And they both really matched each other a lot. I cannot wait to see how their relationship continues to develop in the next 2 books. So excited to read Eternity Cure, the second one in the Blood of Eden trilogy. I'll be getting on that ASAP. Thanks for watching my Immortal Rules book talk. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out more book talks, just head to my channel. I'm Miranda, see ya!